This is WBSM On Demand.
Good morning. Good morning. We have Mayor John Mitchell. It's a little not his normal time, not his normal day, but the mayor is here because he keeps his commitments. Good morning, Mayor. How are you?
I'm doing all right, Chris. I'm doing all right.
Have you voted yet?
I have not voted yet. I will. I will before 8 o'clock tonight. I got a few meetings I have to go to, and it's so far we are at 10 o'clock, 3 hours into it, and so far we've had nothing going on. Knock on wood. So we had a press conference last week to talk about the steps that we had taken to ensure security of the election and the fidelity of the process. So we did that just because people are on edge about it. It was really, we didn't have like any specific evidence that any evidence of a specific threat or any whiff of something going wrong. But just a lot of people are on edge, and we want to just say, hey, look, we're on this. I don't know if other mayors are doing it. I just thought that it was something that we should be doing. We should be doing here, and so we took a lot of steps to in the last few months to ensure that things are working smoothly. A lot of redundancy in the system, lots of training, lots of just a higher level of coordination between the police department and other city departments.
Yes,
and it seems to be going well.
So I noticed that part of your plan is, it doesn't surprise me you have uniformed officers at the polling places, but I did find it interesting you have undercovers, plainclothes guys and women in and about the crowd and things like that, on the spot or in the city. What's the plan with that, John?
Yeah, the idea there is just to monitor things outside of polling locations a little bit better, and if there's some need for some reinforcement for backup at any of the polling locations, that can be done. Using plainclothes off. The idea behind using plainclothes officers is just to keep the temperature down, right? Just to have people, rather than seeing a uniform out there, is to which might signal to people that there's something wrong. We've had plainclothes folks in positions where people might react the wrong way to a uniform.
But just to reiterate, you have no direct threat to New Bedford, any of that?
None. Zero.
Right.
And if we did, we'd be all over it.
Right.
But again, last week's press conference was just a way of conveying to everybody that we are on top of it, just in case, because there are all sorts of rumors that are going around. Plus, there's also sort of there. I don't know. I mean, I think that there are. It's easy. I mentioned a few weeks ago to you that what we're observing in America in many ways is the inverse of Tip O'Neill's aphorism that all politics is local.
Right.
So much of local politics now is nationalized, right? I mean, you see it play out on your show. And so lots of people hear rumors that emanate from the national conversation, such as it is, and they ascribe it to local events and local procedures, and so we just say, look, for us, you go vote for whomever you wish. We're going to make sure your vote's counted. Period.
508-996-0500, the mayor of New Bedford. Now, there's no reason to not vote today. It's an absolutely beautiful day out there.
Weather should not be a factor, Chris.
Right.
This is great. Yeah, it's great out there.
It really is great. Yeah. Will you be out there holding a sign for any particular candidates? Are you out there organizing for anybody?
Well, I haven't been. I endorsed Harris, of course, but I didn't, and I signed up to be a surrogate, but time didn't allow my going to Pennsylvania or Michigan or any of those places. It's easier it's easier for legislators, people in legislative positions, to do those things. I've got to run the railroad.
Right. No, I get that.
So it's harder to do. It's not to say I couldn't pull it off, and it's not to say I've never done it before. But there are just a number of things going on in the city that I want to make sure are attended to. Not the least of which is the the ordinary, the normal operation of the election.
You got a new sticker. If people vote, they get a new sticker. It was designed by kids, I think.
Indeed, they were, yeah. Our election commissioner, Manny DeBrito, launched this initiative whereby he asked kids to come up with their best designs. And so they did. They came up with all kinds of cool designs. The Bedford Public School children came up with designs that, included like a whale, and there was another one with a waterfront and fishing and so forth. So if you vote, you get to have one of these stickers. You should have like a collection. It's kind of like, what was that promotion that McDonald's did when we were a kid, and you collect all that stuff?
All the stickers,
yeah. Something like that. We should do that.
Wouldn't that be evidence that you voted more than once, though, Mayor?
It could. It could.
That's the last thing I need.
Yeah.
But I noticed, so folks, here's the thing. If you are a registered voter in New Bedford and you want to see one of these stickers, and you ought to, you got to go vote.
If you want a sticker, you got to go vote.
You got to go vote.
So if you need one more reason to vote, if you want one of these authentic stickers you will find nowhere else, you got to go vote in New Bedford.
And it's kind of fun.
And our friends in Fairhaven and Dartmouth and Acushnet and all the surrounding towns, if you want some of those stickers, if you tell us you voted, we'll go get you a sticker too.
All right, I like that.
There's the deal.
I like that. Or we could just go over there and no.
We could do that. We might run out that way.
We might run out of stickers that way.
Kind of like I did with Halloween, by the way.
How was your Halloween, man?
It was something. I don't know if you saw my post. I had the
smoke machine.
Proud of the
fog
smoke
machine. Yeah,
that I jerry rigged.
Yes.
I bought one of those. I bought this big fiberglass skull that I hung over my door. I had that for a few years now. But what I did differently this year is I bought a fog machine and got a hose and hooked it up to the mouth of the skull, and so it was blowing smoke out.
It's pretty cool.
Kids got a rise out of that.
Oh yeah, that's great.
But I had, I've told you in years past, like my neighborhood is like Grand Central on Halloween. It's funny. It's what's so different from when we were kids, Chris, is that people travel to neighborhoods.
I've noticed.
And as opposed to just going around bringing their kids to their own neighborhoods, letting the kids out the door and say, okay, go out, come back in a couple hours, that kind of thing. So people actually go to neighborhoods, and my neighborhood happens to be one of them where there's a whole lot of kids that show up. So I figured this year I would keep a tally.
Okay.
And I figured, it'd be like 100, 150 kids or something like that, right? So I kept the tally. I didn't distinguish between parents and kids, because sometimes parents show up with costumes.
Yes.
You can't tell, whatever. Except for the one person I knew wasn't a kid when she showed up with a bag, and she was also holding a cigarette. So she's not a kid. So I didn't.
Did you offer her a drink?
Yeah.
Martini.
But so I kept a count. So every time I hand out candy, come back in the house, I write down the number. Well, we had from 5 o'clock to like 8:20, 578 visitors.
Wow. That's
578 visitors. I couldn't believe it, and it was like far more than I would have guessed. And of course, it turned out we ran out of candy. So we're sort of like, oh, geez, I can't be the mayor who runs out of candy. This is going to be. I can't just do what a lot of people do, which is just close the door, shut the lights off, right?
That's my move.
So I went in the cabinet, and I was like, oh, somebody gave us these premium chocolates for Christmas. So I started giving the kids that stuff, and they're like, what's this? I said, just trust me, it's good.
It's better.
And then I started. My wife Ann started giving me a hard time because I started like taking out granola bars and stuff. I gave these kids granola bars, and they gave me this. Without saying, they gave me a look that said, "Really?"
Yeah, granola bar. What about a toothbrush?
Promoting nutrition. Halloween. So
570.
But the granola bars carried me right to the end. So I was glad that I had. I hope they weren't stale. Nobody likes that.
Premium chocolates, granola bars, plus. How much candy did you buy? Do you remember? It had to be over 500 pieces.
It had to have been over 10 pounds of candy. It was a lot. I mean, she came back with like several bags from CVS.
Now, are you here, kids, one for you, one for the mayor?
Well, I gave a lot out. So that was when I ran into trouble. I was pretty liberal and pretty generous with the candy early on, and started running low real fast. I'm like, geez, these kids keep coming. They actually started lining up at the door, at the porch. And so Yeah, eventually, that's when I had to say, geez, what am I going to do? That's why I started rifling through the cabinets.
So you're not like me, ankle deep in wrappers, going, here you go, kids.
I guess some kids I encourage. Like some kids would come on up, and they're all very polite, and they just take one out and say, "Oh, come on, dig in. Don't tell your mother." And your mother's standing like 10 feet away. Right? Don't do that. So
I have fun.
Yucked it up with them.
I think we went through about 5 bags of candy because we're in the same situation here in Fairhaven over by Cushman Park. They come in, because I know a bunch of the kids in the neighborhood. It's not that many. And you'd see all these cars pull up and kids getting out and stuff. And I just have fun with it like you. I didn't keep a running tally, but I know that we went through like 4 or 5 bags of candy, and I was getting worried.
Yeah, we had, we had at least 15 bags of candy. Yeah. It was a lot of candy. It was like several. I don't know how many. It was a lot. 578.
Yeah, 500. That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
But it was a fun time.
Oh, it was great. It was like 80 degrees.
Right.
Yeah, it's perfect.
When I was kidding with someone, I go, the mayor says it's going to be like Mardi Gras, and you weren't wrong.
No, we had parties on the street. There were a number of neighbors who had at least three parties going on around. So there are lots of adults that like to come to our neighborhood too. So it was good.
508-996-0500. We're going to take a break, Mayor. We got some people on hold. We're going to take a break. Folks, stick around. We'll be right back. Choices.
I think a lot of the undecided voters are people who just, first off, I think a lot of them are checked out, right? And then some people who are just inveterately indecisive, right? And then there's some people who are like, pox on all your houses.
Yes.
I'm not interested in either of you. Everybody's right. So you hear some of that, but that it isn't all that many people overall. Pretty much everybody's got an opinion by this point.
You'd like to hope. Like to hope. Folks, you can vote till 8 o'clock tonight in the city of New Bedford, all over the state of Massachusetts. So make sure you get out there. Mayor, we've been doing a lot of election talk.
No calls, huh?
No, we got people there. There.
Okay.
In fact, why don't we run through a couple calls, and then we'll talk about Veterans Day.
Yeah, sounds good.
Good morning. Thanks for holding. You're live on the air with the mayor.
Hello, Chris. Hello, Mr. Mayor.
Hey.
Last night I was watching a national YouTube channel called Cam and Country, and they were interviewing Jim Wallace, who's the executive director of Gun Owners Action League. And without prompting, Jim Wallace pointed to New Bedford, Massachusetts, and no other community other than New Bedford as being the greatest civil rights violator of the Second Amendment right now, because you're a year out in processing new gun licenses in this city. What are you going to do? And I don't personally care if you're going to take a patrolman out of a squad car and put him in the firearms division. Gun owners did not ask for this draconian laws, and you are number one violator of a enumerated right of the Constitution. What are you going to do about it?
It's the first time I'm hearing that. I have no idea who Jim Wallace is.
Oh, he's the head of Gun Owners Action League.
Yeah, I've never heard of him. Is he based in Massachusetts?
Oh, yeah. He's in Northborough.
Yeah, I've never heard of the guy.
So I think we've had him on as a guest here. But anyway, that's all right.
I should have been listening that day.
You should have been listening
I
that
have
day.
no idea.
So basically what they're saying is there's a backlog of people who need the background check so they can get a license to carry a firearm in the city of New Bedford.
It wouldn't surprise me that there's a backlog because we have a police department of 268 officers that actually only has 211 on board right now. So there's a backlog on a lot of stuff. As we've talked about on countless occasions on this show, we've been working really hard to recruit new officers, and it ain't easy these days because...
Is it possible, Mr. Mayor, you can put a volunteer in that office?
No. No.
You wouldn't want to volunteer there, sir. Think about that.
No.
Well, if I'm trained, it's just processing licenses. A lot of it's just moving paper around.
No, it's
for renewals. For instance, renewals.
It's not. There's the background checks. There's a whole lot of other stuff. No, that's not. It's not that simple.
Well, I think you need to figure this out before you find yourself in a class action lawsuit. Good day.
Thanks for the call.
Okay. Well, yeah, we'll look into it. Like if there's some bureaucratic backlog, we've got to deal with. You got to deal with it. But we've got a police department that is significantly down personnel for reasons that are there are lots of reasons for it, and we're trying to get our way out of that.
508-996-0500. That's how you can get on the program. Good morning. Thank you for holding.
Good morning, guys. Good morning, Mr. Mayor. How you doing?
Good morning.
I actually had a question that really hasn't been touched on. One of the ballot questions. Everybody talks about question 5. Everybody kind of knows how everybody's going to vote on that one. But the one that is kind of sticking out to me, but doesn't have a lot of consequential, issues with a lot of people is the rideshare unionization. My issue with the rideshare unionization being on the ballot is everybody has a right to assemble. Whether you agree with the union or not, everybody has the right to form a union. And I think putting it on the ballot allows, in a direct democracy, to suppress the constitutional right that we all have, which is the right to assemble. And I think voting no on that and kind of suppressing that right is unconstitutional. And I'll just lean on your legal expertise on that and see where you land on where I'm coming from.
Thanks for the question.
Yeah, we've talked about this before.
Right.
Yeah, I have some serious misgivings about the whole referendum process in Massachusetts. It's a process that has been in place for about 100 years in the state, and it is always purported to be. The proponents have always suggested that it is a way of ensuring direct democracy, right? For what that's worth, but I say for what that's worth because the reality is, in a democracy, you have to answer complex. You have to solve complex problems, and it is hard for average citizens to have the time or the expertise to actually delve into every single issue and come up with solutions. And that's why we have elected representatives. That's why we have a form of government that's more in the way of a republic than a traditional democracy, a pure democracy. We send people to the legislature to do that homework, to go lean on expertise, to develop their own expertise and exercise sound judgment to arrive at solutions. And so when you put complex questions like the unionization of rideshare folks, the legalization of psychedelic mushrooms, or any of the other ones that are on the ballot, the auditing of the legislature, the MCAT, all these things are complex policy issues. It's like if people walk into the voting booth and wonder, and read all the background, all the description of the proposal, and how do you possibly, without having a chance to talk to people about how can you possibly arrive at a sound solution? The reality is that most of these ballot questions are put on the ballot through a process that is itself a tall order. Usually you have to be really well funded so that you can have lawyers who write the ballot questions in the way that you want. You need money to go out and hire people whose job it is to collect signatures. There are companies that do that. You need to hire political consultants to advance a campaign and to advertise and do all that. And the reality is that and this is sort of the paradox of it all, rather than being sort of this sort of neutral, open way of deciding policy issues, it's really a way of an opportunity for well-capitalized special interests to put something on the ballot and to describe it in a way that seems innocuous when oftentimes it isn't. And so that's why I unless there's some compelling reason not to, I vote no across the board.
It's amazing. For instance, we're talking about the tipping economy, the Uber economy.
Yeah, question
and there's
5.
Question 5. There's no economic study. If there is, it's not readily available, and who'd read it anyway?
Yeah, question 5. We talked about that. Right. You've had guests on. It doesn't make any sense. It's the restaurant industry. This is the one that concerns the restaurant industry and minimum wage. Restaurants are already required to certify to the state that they pay the state minimum wage to their employees. Many of their employees, not uncommonly, their employees make much more than that in tips. But what they're doing now in the way of forcing tipped employees to have a non-tipped minimum wage, which is like 6 times higher, right, or 5 or 6 times higher than the tip minimum wage, is making it far more expensive to do business, and it's going to drive some restaurants out of business, and it's going to shrink the number of jobs out there that are subject to tipping. So, you're not going to see as many waitress jobs out there as you used to, and so it doesn't make any sense. But it's the proponents of this is this group from California. It has no connection to Massachusetts. They have this. It's not even obvious to me what the motive is. It seems altogether odd, but they have had the means to put this on the ballot and support it with lawyers and consultants, and to sell it to the public as it's this equity issue. Shouldn't all these people be paid more? And the reality is they're not going to get paid much more, if at all, and a lot of them are going to lose their jobs.
Commonwealth Magazine has done a lot on this group. Probably more should be done, but at Commonwealth Magazine, that's a publication I trust. I know you do as well. They've written about it, where the money's really coming from. It's all out of state primarily, except for one Democrat activist here in the state, Shannon Liss Reardon. She ran for Attorney General.
Yeah, I know her, yeah.
She gave $20,000 to this group. Seems like it's a bunch of socialists using direct democracy to screw up the republic. That's what I think.
Yeah, so that was my answer to the caller's question about the rideshare unionization matter. Like, I think these things can be decided in the legislature, and if you don't like what your legislator does, you can vote for somebody else.
They're getting paid $100,000 in avoiding important questions.
Who is
the legislature?
Yeah, I mean, people can take these things up, and with the legislature takes up a whole lot of questions, and so these are just some more of them. And a lot of times that these groups don't like the answer they get from the legislature, and if they've got a lot of dough, they can put the question on the ballot.
A republic needs an army to defend itself, and we have Veterans Day coming up. I don't think anybody does it better than the greater New Bedford area, in particular the city of New Bedford. You have an annual parade. It kicks off Monday at 11 a.m. Talk about the parade for veterans, Mayor.
We commit a great deal of time and energy to our veterans events, and Veterans Day is no exception. It goes down Parker Street. Actually, no, it's Memorial Day. It goes down Union Street and goes down to the library, where we'll have speeches there, as we always do. But it's an important event, and it comes on the heels of elections, right? It's the Monday after elections, and this year I think it's just especially important for all Americans to look for those things that unify us. This has obviously been a very divisive time in the United States. We were talking off air about the presidential election, and nobody. I haven't heard anybody who has a handle. I certainly don't, on how it's going to turn out. Right. But what I do know is that whichever way it goes, we're going to have a very divided country, and I think it's so important these days to recognize those things that unite us, and that is our commitment to the nation, and there's no better way to express that by honoring, in my view, than to honor veterans. And so we have that opportunity on Monday here in the city to do that. And I just encourage people, especially parents who can bring their children to come on out.
We have the mayor of New Bedford here in studio. You had the anniversary of CERTA, the Southeastern Regional Transit Authority, out at UMass Dartmouth. You joined a bunch of other people out there. Let's talk about that, Mayor.
Yep. So, sometimes we take it all for granted that CERTA, or as it's been rebranded, SRTA, which is what we call it now, has been around for 50 years. It was one of the prime movers here in the city was Mayor Markey, of course, but also Ben Baker, who was the city planner at the time. Ben passed away in the last year, the guy who contributed so much to the city. But it's proven its worth. It's provided a resource for people to go about their daily lives, and to, whether it's to provide transportation to go to work or to church or to the grocery store, wherever. It has enabled people to live fuller lives, and transportation counts for a lot. If you're relying on public transportation, it is so important that it be there reliably on time. And SRTA over the years, with some lapses, has been run very, very well. In the last 10 years, it's been run extraordinarily well. Last 12 years by Eric Russo, who's done just a really terrific job with it. And so in that time, we've seen a growth in ridership. We've launched Sunday service. We've launched free fares recently with the help of federal and state funding. That's been very useful, and night service as well. That was a few years ago. So the service has expanded, so it helps more people now. But it's a good service. They're getting electric buses, which is a good thing these days. They're getting new plant and equipment and all, and so we've been very pleased with it. So they've been around for 50 years now, and it's still going really strong.
I was on the board for 3 years when I was a selectman. One guy has to go over, and I said, that'll be kind of neat. I thought it was really interesting to be on the board of that group, and they do tremendous work. And obviously, a lot of people would like New Bedford to move towards more of a walk.
It didn't have its laps when you were on the board.
It did not.
Just for the record.
I went back and looked. Believe me, I did, because I wasn't paying that much attention. Nobody, I think, knew. But anyway, somebody knew. But so... you want to move the city more towards a walking city or a public transportation city, right? There's not enough room for cars in the city.
That's why we've promoted other forms of transportation. There will be a passenger rail service, of course, to Boston, between Boston and New Bedford, starting next spring. That'll be one more thing. We've promoted biking in the city, and we don't have a big bike culture here, but we have enough of it that has justified the establishment of bike lanes around in key corridors in the city, and we'll continue to support that. And the idea is that city living is we like to get people out of their cars. I think that you experience. I mean, there are lots of climate related benefits to doing that, but beyond that, there are good reasons. In terms of the city's quality, promoting the city's quality of life by encouraging people to get out of their cars. So that's something that we'll continue to do.
Well, it's healthy for people.
It is. You get to enjoy your city a little bit more. Right. What's different about living in the city as opposed to a suburb or rural area is that you can walk to stuff. That's the fundamental difference, and from an individual standpoint. And so it allows you to experience things in a way that's different and maybe even more intimate. And just think about like when you go to a city you haven't been to before, right? If you drive around in a car, you see it one way, but if you go out and walk or run or bike around, you see it in a whole different way. And I think it's true even of the city where you live. People will see me out and about running and stuff, and I'll bring my phone along with me because I'll end up taking like notes and things I see. It's usually stuff like to fix, right? But you do see things. You do notice things. You experience things differently when you're out of a car.
It's like if you grew up watching Sesame Street, nobody in a car ever met Big Bird. You had to be out walking on Sesame Street, right?
So there you go. Yeah.
We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. Diligently to speak with the mayor. Good morning. Thank you for holding.
It's me?
It's you. Sketty.
Oh, awesome.
Sketty, is that you?
That's me.
Fabulous. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I have to say, I love calling you my Ray Romano.
Remember, only you can call me Ray Romano.
Yeah, you told me that. You gave me permission. But so I do have a question for you. So it's kind of good that you guys are wrapping up the show. With transportation, so on the Pay and Go parking lot, I see that there's the EV stations, and they're like really tall. And I'm saying, what is that for? Like, what are you looking for? City buses to pull in there? But no. But my question is, I'm really curious about this. are you going to have city? I know you purchased some school buses with the EV. Are you going to be having them charged there? And are you going to be using that for municipal trucks? And I also see that you had the city put in parking signs in front of people's homes now that are across the street from the Pay and Go. So I'm just curious about that. That's all.
Thanks for the question, Sketty.
Well, so your question's about electric vehicles and what the city has. And so, yeah, there are electric school buses that we got from the federal government and through a grant program. And we also have a fairly large number, although I don't know what it exactly is right now, electric vehicles in the city's municipal fleet. The city has a sizable fleet, over 100 vehicles, and many of them now are electric vehicles. We've got most of them. We got deals on most of them. Most of those deals came in the way of grants over the years from the state or the federal government. We're still doing more of that. They're still eligible to do more of those, and we intend to. And it saves this, whatever you think about those grant programs and the whole thing, it's from the city standpoint, it saves us money. If we can buy electric vehicles on the cheap and then not have to gas them up, well, it's good for the city.
508-996-0500 so I can get on the program. Good morning. Thank you for holding.
Hey, how you doing, Chris?
Not bad.
I have a music request to Willie Nelson. Vote him out.
Okay.
If you can
Barry
play that.
loves playing that.
Mr. Mayor, good morning.
Good morning.
I have some questions for you, and I hope you answer them honestly and to the point.
No, I'm going to lie.
Manny DeBrito, the election commissioner's contract's expired. Are you thinking of having somebody else in that position? And my other question is because we've had problems in the past with malfunctioning machines and not enough ballots. Can you give me your word that we got plenty of ballots and we're going to have functional machines and we have ready backups just in case there's any snafus?
Yeah, we did. We took a long look at that issue. We'd run out. What happened in the primary was that there were a lot of folks who were unenrolled who pulled Republican ballots at an unprecedented rate in some precincts. And so in Massachusetts doesn't have what's referred to as a true open primary. In other words, where you go in and everybody's on the same ballot. It's only the case in California and Washington. If you are if you're a Democrat, you got to vote Democrat. If you're a Republican, you got to vote Republican. If you're unenrolled, you can pull a ballot in either. And so a lot of people are unenrolled. And so historically, those unenrolled folks had primarily pulled Democratic ballots. Back in March, they pulled more Republican ballots than ever before. And so we ran low at certain precincts, and that but everybody got a chance to vote. Nevertheless, we were able to get more extra ballots over there. What we've done this time around is that we've got plenty of ballots. There's a whole lot of them at every polling location, so that's not going to be an issue at all.
508-996-0500. Good morning. Thanks for holding. What happened to that guy? Oh, here he is. Good morning. Thanks for holding. You're on the air.
Oh, hi. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Hi, Mr. Mayor. How are you?
I'm doing all right. How you doing?
Good. Just a quick question. I was just curious. I pass by it all the time. On Sharman Avenue, across from the water department, they fixed up the building. They put a big addition on the side of it. Is that like ABC Disposal or something else going there? Would you know?
There's a couple of buildings over there, so that everybody's wondering. So you're talking about the stretch of Sharman Avenue north of the 140 overpass, right? And
right. Right now there's like a white building. They put like a big, giant, pretty tall blue addition to it, and I was just curious what it was for.
Yeah, you're probably referring to the trash company that took over for ABC Disposal.
Okay.
Even though they no longer have the main city contract, they still have other contracts in the city. That's probably theirs. There's also the former A.W. Martin junkyard there that's been vacant for a while, for a number of years.
Oh, that's a mess.
Fell
That's
behind
really
on the taxes.
a mess. Yeah.
So we got to figure out something to do there. They don't owe a ton in taxes. It's like $50,000 or $60,000 or so, if memory serves me. And so they may come back and they may try to sell it, but we're trying to nudge them along because the place is a bit of an eyesore.
Yeah, something should be done because, you come down Sherman Avenue and you look, and that Martin's places, it makes the whole area look bad. People going to the airport and stuff.
It does.
Yeah, I agree. I hope.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Yeah. It's kind of an industrial area, but it's also the main entrance to the airport. It's one of the it's one of the reasons why we're working on a new entrance to the airport off of Mount Pleasant Street. Thanks
for the call. Thank you for the call. It'd be a good spot for an encampment, homeless encampment. Hey, welcome to New Bedford. Anyway, we're going to take a break, Mayor. We got some people still on hold, but we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Is Steppenwolf off the mayor's playlist? And I understand the mayor's going to lobby to make that Serta's new theme song.
I think so. It's up there. It's a candidate.
508-996-0500. We've got some people on hold. Good morning. Thanks for holding.
Good morning, Chris. Good morning, Mr. Mayor. How are you?
I'm doing all right. How you doing?
Good. I just want to give out a shout-out to Manny Brito today because so far the ballots were in Ward 1. They were there this morning. So when I voted this time, the ballots were there. So tell Manny he's doing a good job this morning, that he was able to get the ballots out to Ward 1. And this time I didn't have to worry about coming back because we had the correct ballot for me.
Yep. Well, that's good. And so you cast your vote early.
Yes, I did. Good. And this time there was no snag, so I guess there's an improvement already. So that's good to know.
How was the turnout up there in Ward 1? How was the turnout of your precinct?
It was good. It was, I got right in. I was early in the morning, so about maybe 10 to 15 people. But there was more coming in after I left. But it was a good turnout for early in the morning because they had quite a few people already in there. So it was good.
Thanks for the update and the compliments. That's always helpful, right, Mayor?
Indeed.
What I do. If I just dumped you, call back 508-996-0500. Any last-minute pitch for the Democrat ticket this time?
Well, we've talked. I did want to say something, and that is that I just want to thank all of the election workers out there. These are people who have either, if they're retired or they have other jobs, they do this on election day because it is in their minds, and rightly so, a discharge of their civic duty. They want the system to work, and election workers, in today's political climate, get a lot of grief, and they're out there at the polling locations doing a great job, and I just want to tell them how much I appreciate what they do.
Mayor, will you be out holding a sign? I've seen you at polls in the past. I think Hank Turge and I ran into you last time around up there in the North End.
I think I was holding a Mitchell sign.
You were holding a Mitchell that time.
My sign. Vote for me.
And you were there late. I mean, it was already dark.
Oh, yeah. I run through the tape, Chris.
Yeah. So will you be out there for the vice president tonight?
I in all likelihood, yes. I just want to make sure things are going smoothly with the election. That's the priority, but I think people all know where my preferences are. I do think that Vice President Harris will make a good president. I can't predict how this whole thing's going to turn out, if I'm being dead honest with folks. But I hope she wins because I think she is the makings for an effective president at this point in time in American history.
What time do you think we'll know who the winner is, or what day do you think we'll know?
Well, last time it was Saturday, right? So I don't know. I'm guessing. Let's say Saturday.
But Massachusetts, we generally
Massachusetts. I'm fascinated. I'm eager to find out, obviously, who wins that race, but also I'm also eager to find out how things shake out around here in the state rep races as well as on the ballot questions. And I'm also very curious to see how things turn out in the presidential race in the city and in Greater New Bedford. It'll be a mark of trends these days that I think is better than any poll you could do.
we're coming down to the end here, Mayor. I do appreciate you coming in. I think the other really interesting race to me, just on how the numbers are going to split up, not that what the result's going to be. I think we know that Elizabeth Warren's going to be reelected, but it'll be interesting to see how much damage John Deaton can do.
Well, yeah, that's. I'm sure. I saw polling that she was ahead pretty significantly. Some of it's as it is with the state rep races, just and with the presidential race in the city. It's interesting to see trends. So how well she does here will be sort of a marker